Right.
All right. I'm here with Nick Weaver, one of my best friends in the whole world.
Jesus.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's good to be sitting here in your room. I'm having a really fun time.
Great. So, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to talk to you about on this podcast, but I feel like we have a lot of different things that we can draw from.
Yeah.
But ideally, I definitely at some point want to hit you growing up as gay in Oklahoma.
Got it.
Like from a young age. Because of
Okay.
all my friends, you were the one that kind of came out the youngest.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you came out?
I was 12. I was in the 6th fucking grade, which is a crazy time to come out because it's already terrible and you're in middle school and you're thinking like maybe I'll come out, like I think I know this thing about myself. I'm not really sure. Should have let the world know. And then just doing so, you're looking at already making the next 3 years of your life worse through like 7th and 8th grade. It was just like, maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have stayed closeted, but, you know.
We'll start at the beginning and tell me when you figured it out.
Fuck. That's so hard because, like, it depends on when you mean, like, when did I learn the definition of the word? When did I first suspect there was something a little bit weird about me?
Sure,
When
all
did
of
I
the above.
Okay.
I remember you told me a story once about realizing that you were attracted to the male body and that wasn't what was expected of you.
Yeah, I guess it was like from when I was in like preschool and shit, like toddler age, like even then I had this very definite idea that like I have a sort of, there's a weirdness about me that I can't put a finger on. It was like, well, one, I was the type of kid I always hung out with other girls, so that was the first thing. And I just thought it was because like I wasn't macho enough to hang out with the other boys, but I think there were some like, you know, probably some subconscious things going on there. I guess the first time I really knew I would have been about like 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
I was like at my dad's office one day, because he would just like bring me up there and let me use the computer at the secretary's desk, because there was no secretary for some reason. And I would just like browse shit, play like PC games, and like one day I just got this weird idea. I was like, well, I'll just like Google naked people and like see what I get.
At
and
your
so,
dad's office.
Yeah, I was just like there because like, you know, no one's gonna be coming and looking. There's no such thing as search history, whatever. And so I was just like ended up looking at all these like weird early 90s late like porn photo sets. Do you know what I mean? That were just like really weird, and they all had titles. They were like naked at the gym, or like nude beach, or like it's just weird shit like that.
All images.
Yeah, it was just like it was just photo sets, and so I just remember the first one being this like it was some sort of beach scene between a guy and a girl. They were like fucking on the beach or something, and like to my I couldn't even comprehend what exactly it was I could see. I could see that there was a dude, and he had his shoulders and his arms, and there was a woman, and she had shoulders and arms, but below that point, I had no idea what was going on with their bodies. I was like, what? But I do distinctly remember being, like, more drawn to the male figure.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. This kind of, like, inherent, like, connection with, like, oh, I like that. I would like to see more of that. It's, like, the same way I would act when I was, like, we would go on like day trips to like water parks or some shit, or like pools, like anywhere where there was like a locker room. I was the most like awkward fucking kid in that, because at the same time I was like, no one can see my body, I don't want that to happen, but I was also like doing my best to just like, not in even like a pervy way, because I was like, I mean it was probably pretty pervy,
Nothing wrong
but like
with pervy.
I mean yeah, when I was like, it was just like I just wanted to. It wasn't like the people were all that attractive. Like these were like, you know.
But you're still in fact-finding mode at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to know more. I was like, what does that look like? Is this something? And I think it was like a year after that I came across the definition of like gay, and did my research there the way that I could, and then definitely came to like terms with it. And then it really wasn't until like a couple months after that I ever like put it into words to myself or another person.
Now, when you realized that you were attracted to guys, obviously by the age of 10 or 11, your other friends are expressing interest in the opposite sex.
Yeah.
So did you kind of, at that point, were you worried that something was wrong? Or that, like, you might be different in some way that you couldn't define?
It never occurred to me because I guess I just always defined myself as, like, I hadn't found a girl that I liked yet. Which was ridiculous because I was friends with a lot of girls and, like, enjoyed them. But, like, I do remember this distinct, like...
That's such a great approach, though.
I was just like, I was just like, oh, surely. It didn't even occur to me that I could be into dudes until, like, it was suggested. I do remember a couple times, like, I guess I would have been in, like, the 4th or 5th grade or something. Like, little dalliances with, like, girlfriends. Do you know what I mean? I would, like... I've had 2. I might as well... This is gonna be funny. Bleep their names, I guess or not. But there was one, her name was Shay. And she went to school with me from, like, kindergarten up until, like, 2nd grade. And she was, like, my Valentine. In pre-K, I gave her, like, a Little Mermaid locket. And I was like, be mine. Because it felt like the thing that I should have been doing.
Right.
I was like, well, it's Valentine's Day. All these other boys are like, ooh, is there a girl you like? You know, it's expected of me. So I sort of picked Shay because she was the least offensive choice and also put up with me. So I was like, we're friends, I'm just going to give this to you. So I could tell people, it was so I could go back home later that day, and when my dad asked me, like...
So she was your first beard.
Basically, yeah. She was literally, I just kind of used her. And then the same thing happened later on in the 6th grade. I exchanged, like, my number with a girl. We were like, we're gonna hang out. Like, we never hung out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was one of those ideas where I got the idea, was like, oh, maybe we're gonna start dating after this, and then I just never had the urge to, like, bring it up with her again. Yeah. Because it was already so awkward the first time to ask her for her phone number, and the only reason I asked her for her phone number was because someone suggested that I should, because I guess they read my friendship with her as romantic attachment on my part, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But, like, once I was out of the public eye, I was like, sorry, I'm not calling you. Not that I haven't had that same thing happen to me, though. My cousin jokes that what turned me gay was she tried hooking me up with a girl once at, like, a dance. And I asked for her number at the end of it, because this is how we communicated. We were like, what's your cell number, you know? I'll SMS text message you. Like, it was so retro. And she gave me the, like, do you know the Rejection Hotline?
No.
That shit when that was a thing?
Oh, no.
It was so great. It was very, like, early web internet experience. It was, like, a service, and it was, like, it was this number, and you call it, and it's this message. It's an automated message that's, like, the person who gave you their number actually, for some reason, doesn't want you to have their number. This is the automated rejection hotline. So it's this idea that, like...
That's really clever.
It was, yeah, it's really clever. It was so messed up. Like, I found this out, I was like, fuck. Not that I, like, was really into this girl and wanted to, like, date her, but it occurred to me that, like, I was...
Oh, to be rejected by anyone.
I was like, fuck, that's
whether
messed
or not
up.
You're interested does
in
not
such, like,
good.
a weird, passive-aggressive way. I was like, you could have just said no. I didn't have to do the roundabout of being told by some sort of, like, movie phone voice that, like...
Right, that's kind of
you
shitty.
weren't interested. Yeah, and so she's like, oh, so that was, like, the last time you were ever interested in women, and I was like...
And how old were you when that happened?
That would have been, like... I might have lied. That might have been, like... That would have been 12, I think. Yeah.
So it's kind of the last nail in the coffin.
Yeah, sure.
Of your supposed heterosexuality.
It was definitely like... Yeah, that girl, I totally forget what her name even was, but that was the last time I ever had any sort of, like, down. I think shortly after that, it was, like, Wikipediaing the title homosexual, and then coming out to my parents, and then coming out to my family. And, like...
So tell me about that. Tell me about how you came out to your parents, and what was their reaction?
Well,
I mean, just so people know.
Yeah. No, I mean, my story, I definitely, like, wound up lucky. Like, my mom, who's, like, you know, she's great. She's really supportive. You've met her.
Now, is your family very religious? I mean, we do live in Oklahoma.
We do. My aunts and uncles and grandparents are all, like, semi-religious. I always got the idea that, like, my mom, at least, was, like, the sort of, like, counterculture kind of, like... liberal one in her family.
Yeah.
So she had, like, gay friends growing up. So we never, like, we didn't go to church when I was a kid. It was something our parents were kind of like, well, if our kids end up having questions about God, we will answer them. If they end up wanting to believe in something, we will allow that. But we're not going to force anything on them. It was a very kind of, you know, passive religion parenting style. Anyway. And I came out to her a little bit after I had come out to my first pen pal. The first person I ever came out to, yeah. It was, I had this pen pal for about 3 years. She was a girl my age. I had met her on, like, a plane coming back from Disney World or something. And we exchanged emails. It was my first Yahoo email, you know what I mean? Like, all excited about that. And, sorry, I'm going to retell this story. I got to take a break for a hot second.
You're good.
Do you know what I mean? I'm feeling myself going into interview mode and not, like, talking mode. And I'm like, I gotta stop doing that shit.
Well, so tell me first, just how did you come out to the pen pal?
Okay,
I'll keep you on track.
That's good. I fucking need that. Just ask me questions. I came out to her, I guess, when I would have been 11. I suggested this idea to her. I was like, hey, how's it going? Because, you know, we exchanged, like, monthly emails. I was like... Shit, I wish I could find the text of it. It's so funny, and it's like, the number one thing I was concerned about in the email was like, I do not want your parents to find this email and get mad at you for talking to someone who might be gay. Like, the whole thing, it was like, you can tell the way I wrote it, I was very like, I think this might be true, I think I've been doing some research, so I think I could be homosexual, I think is exactly how I phrased it. Like, if you don't know what that is, that's when you're attracted to other men when you're a guy, and I was trying to define it for her, like, she didn't know.
How did she respond?
She was really supportive. She was like, oh yeah, my uncle is gay, like, and we all love him, and I think you should tell your parents and be who you want to be. I mean, like...
And now, did that give you the confidence then to come out to your parents?
I guess it sort of did, because it wouldn't have been shortly after that when I just, like, verbally came out to them. I guess I wanted to test it on someone, and I liked the idea that this person was far away, ultimately.
Yeah,
and could not... Yeah, it was entirely safe. I was like, well, if you are upset about this, we can just cut off contact forever.
And there's no way she could then contact
No,
anyone.
yeah, she couldn't, like, let anyone... She couldn't come to my house and, like, beat me up or whatever. Because I had read a lot. I researched my own coming out experience, you know? I was like, well... When people come out to their families, what happens? And the internet is like, well, you might, sometimes parents, like, are upset with their children, or they don't know how to talk to you. And then some people get, like, disowned and, like, kicked out of their house.
And I know like, you, and you would have fixated and gotten completely worried
exactly.
about that.
I would have been but this was, like, early on enough in my life that I still had that kind of, like, youthful optimism where I was like, oh, my parents really love me deep down. Like, I knew that pretty strongly. But still, even, like, coming out to my mom was still this difficult experience. We were, like, chilling in her bedroom one night. We were, like, watching a movie. And I just, like... I did that thing. It was a thing that I had always sort of done as a kid where, like, if I had done something wrong or I was, like, super upset about something or regretful, I wouldn't tell her straight away. I would just sort of, like... through my own body language and shit that I was saying suggest that I needed to tell her something, and then she'd be like, what's wrong? And I'd be like, I don't want to tell you. And I was just like, no, tell me. And you know what I mean?
Kind of run circles around
I would dance around the point to see how interested she was, because I guess the idea was like, ultimately, I get her to the point where I tell her, and then if she gets upset about it, I'll just say, well, you wanted to know so badly. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to put the fault on her a little bit, which is, you know, messed up child brain logic. And so I was, like, crying. I was like, I don't know if I want to tell you. I'm afraid you're going to be upset with me. Like, you're not going to like me anymore. And she ran through the parental, you know, consoling. And then we went into the bathroom because I didn't want Dad to hear if he was listening or something. I was just a really question. I was just like, I wanted to be in private when I told her, you know? And I was like, I think I'm gay. And that's just how I phrased it. It was like, I think I might be gay. It was like the way that I phrased it. And what I remember, like, I wish I remembered more of it. All I generally remember is her sort of being like, that's okay, and comforting me, and putting me to bed, And then apparently later that night, she went and told my father.
So she told your dad?
Yes, I never came out to my dad.
Okay.
I've never come out to a male relative before.
Yeah.
It's something weird I've noticed of kind of like...
Well, I think your mom... I mean, I know your mom is complete... Like, she lives for you.
Yeah.
Everything she does is so about you that I could see her also being afraid of how she thought your dad might react and her wanting to sort of save you that experience.
That's definitely true. I mean, I did not want to come out to my father is the thing. Like, I was like...
Well, do you know how he took it?
I'm sure he took it well. I mean, I'm pretty sure. He did come from a more kind of like rigid Christian background.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, he had like 3 brothers, like raised by his dad and his stepmom. It's like very much a kind of like core. He spent 4 years in the Navy. You know, he was pretty like, you know, wholehearted American male in that kind of sense. But he also always prioritized what was going on with his family. So
did he come to you about it later, or was it just sort of an elephant in the room between you?
My homosexuality was sort of like an elephant in the room for like my family for a good like year after I came out, because it was like I was 12, so like I came out, I was like I was gay, but there was nothing going on in my life that related to
you weren't
gay.
having sex yet.
I wasn't having sex, I wasn't dating, I wasn't going out to like gay bars or pride parades. It was just like an idea that I knew this thing about myself, and now it was something that we would all have to live with. It wasn't like until, you know, a year down the road that my mother was like, hey, there's this gay youth group here in Tulsa. Would you like to go, like, socialize with other children who are gay? Do you think that's, like, a thing that you would be interested in doing? And she was kind of asking it from the perspective of, like, well, do you feel like you need to talk about it with anyone?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's something that you need to come to terms with someone else who's not related to you or who can share your experience? And I was like, no, I'm pretty much fine with it if you're fine with it. Like, if we don't have any problems, it's not a problem. And then she countered. I think she just thought it would be a good idea for her awkward son to go out and, like, socialize with people. So she was like, maybe you should go and just, like, do it to get some gay friends. And I was like, sure. And then I started going to the youth group and, like, meeting other teens and growing up through that and going through my whole, like, awkward adolescent phase.
So that was a really good experience.
It was good, yeah. I mean, okay, so you're talking about an LGBT youth group in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's like also the largest one. Yes, it was a good experience. I will say it was not without its fucked up elements. Because you're looking at these kids and was like, I definitely knew walking into this environment that I was like one of the privileged kids.
Yeah.
I was like, the first time I went there to a Thursday night group meeting where we were like talking about like, I don't know. It's like I brought my mom with me. You know, I was like, I'm scared. So she was like, I'm going to go with you. And the fact that I had my mother there at all, I realized was a rarity. Because these are kids who are like, they've been kicked out of their home. They're living with their grandparents or their aunts or a family friend.
Here.
Yeah. And it's like, and they have these just like tumultuous relationships with their parents where it's like all these dramas going on. I'm just seeing things where like parents would just like show up at the group on like Saturday nights when we were like having dance nights, you know, just having a good time, and they would be like, I don't want my daughter here tonight. They would like have big scenes and have to take, and we just would just give the kids to their parents because they were their legal guardians. But it was just so shocking to me to see this world where like adults were so like complicit in creating stress in their kids' lives, you know? My parents were always like, they were kind of hands-off about it. I think they generally knew that I was discovering stuff on my own, and if I ever needed help, they would push me in the right direction. So,
Now, how did you deal with it in school? Was it known among your friends and among, like, the general populace of your school?
I guess it sort of was. I guess it had always been probably to my friends since about, like, the 4th grade. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went to a private school, like a very kind of, like, preppy, like, K-12 college, you know, readiness sort of deal. So the people that I were with, I had been with since I was about, like, 3 years old. Do you know what I mean? And now we were all, like, on the cusp of teenagerness. And so it was hard to, like, judge each other for the weird things that were going on in our lives, you know? I think it was generally known that, like, Nick was the gay guy in the school. And he wasn't open, but, like, you knew that. And I had told a couple close friends at this point afterwards. So yeah, it was weird. It was like no one ever talked to me about it, and neither did I, but I walked around knowing that most people knew or assumed.
Yeah.
And it kind of, it messed me up a little bit, like, the amount that it didn't get discussed or brought up. Like, I think I ended up interpreting it as, like, silent hatred.
Yeah.
I remember this really sort of, like, awkward experience where, like, we had this, like, bathroom stall in the 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was, like, boys in the bath, like, they just, like, wrote shit on the wall. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was, like, that kind of, like, child graffiti kind of thing. And I just wrote in, I took a pen, and I wanted to be anonymous. I was like, NW is gay, because I used my initials and not my real name.
You came out to the bathroom stall.
I came out to the bathroom stall. I wrote it, because that's not even an insult, it's like a fact. But the way that I scrawled it was intended to be like, this is derogatory. Because
so
I was interested to see what the responses would be.
So you wrote it intending to be someone else writing it in
about
a negative
me,
way.
yes. I didn't sign it. I was like... Because I was just like... Because it was like the earliest thing that we had to, like, a message board or, like, a forum. Because, like, people would reply to other stuff.
And how did they reply?
I remember the one reply that I got was just like, no shit, Sherlock. And I was like, ha.
Oh, that's so great.
Which it was funny because I was like, well, that's kind of good. But it was still, I mean, like, that shit fucking hurts. I mean, you don't want to think that people are, like, aware of the shit that you're trying to hide, or they could view it that way.
Were you trying to hide it?
I guess I'd say no in a lot of ways. I thought I was trying to hide it, but, like, I was in musical theater, like, I was, like, dancing, like...
So you did all the stereotypically gay things?
I guess. I mean, like, in my extracurriculars with people in the halls, I was, like, the most silent, just, like, giant walking, just, like... Not talking to anyone.
For the people listening, Nick is 6'5".
Ah, Jesus, yeah.
And he's probably been tall for... How long have you been...
I've been over 6 foot since, like, the 8th grade.
Yeah.
So, like...
So you weren't someone who could sort of shrink into the shadows?
Yeah, which was, a blessing and a curse. It was lame because, like, you could always find me if you needed to. But it was also, like, I never really had to worry about being, like... physically bullied.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no one was gonna, like, shove me in a locker because I could just kill you by, like, sitting on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would die. So I knew that. So it kind of just became this thing that really followed me to high school, where I just, like, walking through the halls and just having this kind of quiet resentment for everyone walking around me, who were, like, they were my friends. Like I said, we had grown up, like, I knew them, we saw each other every day. I had no reason to think that they would have this sort of, like, animosity towards me, but I was expecting it because of what I had read. I was like,
so
they all hate you, Nick.
You were ready for a fight that never
I was
came.
so ready. It was like I would walk through the halls, and if there was, like, someone walking the other direction, I would think in my head, of, like, the nastiest possible insult I could throw their way.
Just in case.
Just in case. I was like, so if they say anything, if they go, like, faggot, or, like, get out, like, so I would be able to throw that back instantly and be prepared. That was my worst nightmare, was the idea that, like, someone would throw that at me, and I wouldn't have a comeback, and I would
Were you a
be
little disappointed that fight never came?
It never came. And it really, like, messed me up a little bit. I would just walk through the halls in these constant rages, thinking these, like, really personally just offending things about people who I knew.
Yeah.
And it just grew into this, like, internalized sort of, like, ball of self-loathing that I really didn't get over.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, do you think any of that was due to you having trouble, like, coming to terms with it?
Probably, I'd say, in a kind of, like, deep Freudian way it was. I never thought I hate my homosexuality in any way. Like, I never didn't want to be gay.
Right.
There was nothing that ever happened. But I wanted to be liked.
And you were afraid, from having read all these other stories, you were afraid this was going to keep people from liking you.
Yes, in a fundamental way, I would become unlikable, untouchable. I would become an outsider in a way that I couldn't control. Right. If I had made the choice, like, if I started, doing something really obscene and people were like, oh, we hate you, Nick, that would be different because I don't know, it was at least something that I had a part of. The idea that there was an unchangeable element of myself and my identity that I would have to live with forever, and that some amount of people who don't know me and don't know me personally will hate me for being that.
Yeah.
Was a really scary idea to come to terms with at, like, 13.
Yeah. Well, so tell me about, when did you get your first actual boyfriend?
Fuck. I guess the true answer to that is that, like, I've never really, really had a serious long-term boyfriend, which is, like, the saddest shit I've ever heard. The first serious, what I would call ever a relationship with a guy, this is the dude who took my virginity. This is gonna be a great story that I'm excited to be telling you right now.
Yeah.
His name was Bryce. He was a security guard at the youth group. And I say security guard in the sense that, like, he was 3 years older than me, but, like, he wanted to go in, like, ROTC, like, military training. And
was he openly gay as well?
I guess. He was more like what you'd call himself bisexual.
Okay.
I mean, he thought that. I never saw him express any sort of interest in, like, women or dating girls ever. And he was messed up. He had a pathological lying problem. He had, like, these sort of delusional fantasies that no one warned me about, admittedly, because I was, like, 14 when this happened. We met, and I should clarify, I say security guard. He wasn't really a security guard. He was a guy. He was one of the older kids who had been given a little bit of responsibility in watching over other people, and he translated that as, I am in charge of protecting everyone in this building.
Yeah.
Because, anyway.
One of his delusional fantasies.
Yeah, I mean, he liked to exaggerate things about his own life. I mean, I'm not going to blame him for that. It's something I could easily see myself doing. We sort of had a thing for a while. We had been texting, and then we, like, went out on this, like, date. We went out, and we had fondue, and we watched Where the Wild Things Are, because that had just come out, so... We had a good time watching that, and then we came home, and it was like, we're gonna have a slumber party, like, he's gonna spend the night, and my parents were like, okay, that's cool, and... I was sleeping in my bed, and there was the air mattress in his room. We just had this kind of weird, quiet moment where, like, he just started putting the moves on me and started, like, making out, and shit kind of went from there. And it was awkward and fumbly and terrible, how you could imagine. But
It's the way the first time's supposed to be.
Exactly. But it was, like, so fucking great for me. I was like, holy shit. Like, the entire time in my mind, like, I was, like, not even conscious of what was going on. There was just this tiny little part of me in the background of my head that was just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. This is I was like, this is happening, and it's so good, and it's so much better than I thought that it could ever be if I had to, like, pretend with a girl. I'm like, yeah, I love being gay. And then he sent me a text message the next morning that was like, that was a mistake, I don't want to do that. Or, like, he was like, I don't think we should see each other, which, like, we weren't seeing each other. It's like, we blew each other once, but, like... And then I was like, okay, and that shattered me, and then, like, again, didn't date for, like, another year. Do you know what I mean? Like, that first one really took it out of me.
That's a rough first
It
experience.
was rough, dude. I mean, you think text message breakups is bad, you know? Think text message breakup after, like, a one-night stand and it's your first time. It's like, yeah. I had a very awkward childhood, just full of experiences like that.
Now, do you think that your parents suspected any... I mean, because at this point, they knew that you were gay, and they allowed someone from your gay youth group to spend the night.
Yeah, for sure. I think, if not my dad, who... at this point this was after he had a stroke, so, like, he wasn't entirely, like, in the loop with everything that was going on. But with my mom, at least, she was definitely like, yeah, I knew what you guys were doing up there.
Yeah.
Like,
so was she kind of maybe just ushering you into that experience?
I guess she just wanted me.
Like,
it's so sad.
chaperoning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a weird way to put it. I don't want it to sound like my mom was, like, pimping me in any way. But I think she saw that I was a really weird, lonely kid, and it was about the time that I should start having experiences. I don't know. So she didn't say anything about it. And that was her largest contribution to it happening. Knowing, I mean, like, the depressive, like, sob fests that she had to hear from me afterward about all of it. If she could have stopped it, she would have. Like, but, Yeah, and that really defined me in a lot of ways because I just can flash back to all these, like, high school days, just, like, walking through class, just, like, longing. I was just like, if only I hadn't fucked it up and he hadn't broken up with me over text the day after. You know,
Yeah.
I entirely internalized it, like, blamed it on myself, and I was just like, what's wrong with me? You know?
I think that's a pretty universal experience. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of your sexuality.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
And then I had to keep seeing him for years after that.
Oh, yeah.
The youth group, that was definitely weird. I can remember a lot of Saturday nights, like, thinking I was in, like, a Taylor Swift music video, walking around and staring at him from a distance, but not really staring at him. Do you know what I mean? Like, what was I doing? So just, like, melodramatic, but it was a big part of my formative years. I just remember being shaped by that kind of, like, romantic turmoil and, like, existential crises over why I'm not good enough to date.
Yeah.
Hit me really young.
Now, did you ever have any difficulty as far as your homosexuality and being in a red state? Like, have you run into that? Or do you think that you get by because you're a 6'5" intimidating guy?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. I think I also just sort of, I got lucky in a lot of ways. I really lucked out with getting the family that I did and being raised in the
You've
environment
definitely surrounded
I did.
yourself with really good people.
Yeah, I mean, I'd made a business of that, of, like, prioritizing, like, the friends who were with me need to be okay with me, and I really need to like them. Like, I didn't have any friends who I didn't, like, really enjoyed, you know? I didn't have any fake friends. That's something I never understood about, like, the teenage girls I was going to school with, talking about each other being fake. I was like, if they're fake, why are you hanging out with them? Like, that was never a thing to me. I just hand-picked my acquaintances. But ultimately, no, I was never sort of directly ever attacked or abused. I was never, like, nothing was ever thrown to my face. I'm sure there was stuff going on behind my back that I didn't know about. I haven't been discriminated against, like, in a job or anything. I really have had the most just, like, normal experience.
Good, yeah.
Which, I mean, like, which is good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going, like, I wish. But it definitely is, like, I feel like people are underwhelmed when I tell them my story, and I'm like, yeah, I just had sort of a normal,
I think
awkward
it's a surprise given the circumstances. I mean, if you had grown up on the West Coast, I wouldn't be at all surprised. But the fact that you grew up here and had such a good roll of the dice is rare, I think.
It is. And I like to say that, like, I hope that's encouraging to people who haven't come out yet. You know, like, because I was reading all this shit that was, like, horror stories of people who were, like, you know, my parents don't want to talk to me again. They took my car away. I'm living on the streets. Right. I was like, that's horrifying. I feel like that can be counteracted with, sometimes it might just actually be okay, like, now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might ultimately be fine if you take that risk. And I would never tell anyone to come out if they thought that they were at risk after coming out. I would say be safe. If you are not in the situation where you think you'll be okay, take care of yourself first and foremost. But if you're worried about it, here's an example. Like, I had this experience where it was pretty much okay. So it's not a fantasy to think that you could have people who just accept you for face value. Yeah. That's what I like to tell people when I, like, tell them that I came out at 12, that, like, what my story means, which is, I don't know, really weird to try and...
Well, I think the important kernel of that is that there are groups of people out there, no matter where you are. I mean, you pretty much can't be in a redder state than Oklahoma. But there are still going to be groups of people that you can find that are going to accept you.
Oh, for sure, yeah, there are pockets. I mean, like, Tulsa is, like, in its own sense, its own kind of, like, Midwestern gay mecca. Yeah. I mean, like, the youth group I went to is, like, the largest gay youth group in America, which is weird, because it's not that large. Yeah. But it's, like, it just happens to be, because it has the most square footage, most people go to it.
That is,
and it's really cool. And it's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I can't tell you why. I guess it's just because fate, happenstance. But there definitely is. There's always a community for yourself that you can find around you with enough hard looking and enough stress, you know.
Now, one of the other things I wanted to cover on this podcast is the fact that you are a very talented poet. Oh boy. And specifically a performance poet. You perform, your poetry is written to be performed aloud in front of an audience. And having heard a lot of your poetry, your sexuality is a big part of your poetry.
Yeah.
And that's something that you literally stand up in front of at sometimes hundreds of people and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you start that? What drove you to that?
I guess it was just this idea that, like, as soon as I conceptualized the form of, like, spoken word as a thing, it really spoke to me. Because what it was to me, it was like I was writing from the point of view of myself. It's like all the shit that I wrote was like, it was what I was feeling and it's what I wanted to tell people. But at the same time, it was a character I was performing. It was this character of a larger, more outspoken version of me who could say this stuff in this interesting, like, artsy way. And so when I got on stage, it's like I was performing myself, which made it easier. It made it way easier to stand in front of people and, like, grab my man boobs and be like, here I am, you know, like, this is me, like,
so it was almost
me.
like a safe medium for you to pour yourself out.
It was like, it felt like playing a character in some sort of stage production where I had written my own monologue and the character was me and it was about me, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then later on, as I grew up, I just kind of, like, threw that shit aside and just accepted that I was going to be this in your face with people.
So how old were you when that started?
I would have been in my sophomore year of high school, so I'd have been like 14, 15, something around that age.
So yeah, a lot of big things happening there. Yeah,
definitely. It was a quiet, quick movement through adolescence.
And when I say you're a talented poet, I mean you are literally a champion, award-winning poet.
I did that the first year that I came to Louder Than a Bomb. Yeah, I got the indie championship, and I got to go to Chicago and, like, meet all these, like, cool people who I had seen in the documentary that they had done about slam poetry in Chicago, and I was, like, competing on the national stage in front of a way, like, huge receptive crowd because, you know, they do poetry every year up there in Chicago. It's like an institution up there. And it was a little, it was crazy. It was so much validation coming at me at once from everywhere with, like, no warning at all. Do you know what I mean? Suddenly people were like, we love your voice. You've got this idea, you know, you're this awkward gay kid. And it was just something that they hadn't heard in Oklahoma before coming from a kid who was in high school, I think was kind of the thing. I think that was always a part of it. It was like Nick Weaver, the young poet, I think was definitely a thing. It was like he was expressing this when he was not mature yet. And now I'm sort of, like, getting into maturity and, like, still doing poetry and having to be like, am I good for a youth poet or am I good for, like, a poet?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Now you're kind of having
like,
to find your adult poet
I have to
identity.
I have to figure out, just, like, is my work, like, is it good at all, or was it just good because it happened to be coming from, like, a kid? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're in college now, and you're still getting success.
Yeah, definitely. I'm being published as often as I can get published.
You won an award recently.
A lot more. I won a Colorado Writers Award for poetry. That was really amazing to get. Like, they published my stuff, and it was like a national search that they had done. And, you know, it's like I'm like, I was humbled, like I was blessed. I was like, oh my god. But at the same time, it's like, you wish those successes would come more often when you reach this age. Like, I definitely do. You're submitting to, like, 1,000 different things at once. You're submitting to contests and journals and publications. You're sending your pieces out there. You're paying $15 in a self-addressed stamped envelope, you know? And of that, you may get, like, 10% of them may respond to you. And then if you're in the lucky 1%, you'll actually start, like, winning stuff or, like, getting your stuff out there. So you just cast a wide net, and you take the successes that you can get, is what I try to do.
Now, I know that you work with young poets. Basically the same program that you came up through, Louder Than a Bomb. You're now a teaching poet with Louder Than a Bomb, right? Yeah.
Instead of, like, I guess I was an emerging kind of teacher at first, because, like, yeah, it was really weird. Like, even, like, my senior year of high school, I was, like, going out and, like, teaching kids who were like 3 years younger than me. And I wasn't even graduated yet, and I had to stand up and pretend I had the authority of like an adult educational figure to come in and speak about creative writing like I knew anything about like serious poetry or English literature. But it was great. Like, it was, I so much, like, loved going around and, like, telling other people how I did poetry and then giving them prompts and watching them do it and then, like, hearing their stuff. And it's, like, it's still great now. Like, I've been in the program long enough, like, 4 years I think I'm coming up on, that, like, I've seen kids go through the same sort of, like, arc that I did.
Yeah.
Where, like, they come into the program year one and they're really awkward and they don't think that they have anything interesting to say. And even if they did, they don't know how they would begin to put it into words, let alone a performance. And then by, like, the end of it, they're these completely full-blown, like, superstars who are, like, going on stage and, like, blowing people's minds with these pieces and this art. And you think, like, look how far you've come. Yeah. And I take a lot of pride in that. One, because, it's like, it's nice to see their success, and it's nice to think that I played a part in that, however small. But then it's also like, I remember doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went through that same shit. I was like, I had no idea. I didn't like myself that much. I didn't like my work. And then being discovered out of nowhere, and feeling like all your life you had been waiting for someone to just kind of look at you and be like, what you're putting out is worthwhile, and like, you matter, and we're interested in hearing more of you. And then seeing that happen to another kid. Do you know what I mean? Having that same kind of by proxy experience.
Now, are you recognizing in a lot of these kids that are still, 14, 15, 16 years old, the weight that you were carrying around at that age, and having been through that, you can kind of recognize that?
Oh, for sure, yeah. There's like a weird kid angst that I can really easily tap into. And a lot of the time it's through, like, pop culture stuff that they're into. Like, if they... Oh my god, excuse me. If they tell me that they're into, like, I don't know, really angsty, like, emo, like, no one's into My Chemical Romance anymore, but, like, if you were into My Chemical Romance when you were my age, like, that was instantly like, oh, you write poetry in your spare time, or like, oh, you like to write short stories, or like, oh, you work for the newspaper, the student newspaper, do you know what I mean? Like, so I see that a lot in kids. I'm like, yeah, you're like the goth kid, like, you have a lot of sad thoughts about yourself and your life, and you don't think it's ever going to get better, and it's like, that sucks. Here's why that might not be.
Yeah.
Which is really what we're trying to do. Like, we go into these schools and it's like, we're going to teach you how to write a persona poem today, or we're going to talk about, like, hip-hop poetry, or, like, beat poets. But that's not really what we're teaching. Like, what we're trying to teach is just the idea that, like, people have this natural filter between... I guess what's going on inside their head and their own work, and wanting to be able to, like, get that work on the page. I say page, I'm talking in a vague way now about whatever your art is. People, like, fundamentally do not think that their work means anything. And so what we're trying to do when we go in with these kids is try and be like, your work does mean something, and let's just kind of work at trying lessening the barrier between you and your audience and people understanding you. Let's try and take away some of that self-doubt and self-loathing by us as teaching artists coming in and telling our own stories and, like, working one-on-one with the kids and reading their stuff and giving feedback on their poetry, and in our own kind of way, our strange way, guiding them, I guess, towards somewhere that they might not have been able to get before. I won't pretend like we're, like, miracle workers. We're working in, like, we're saving kids from, like, paths that they shouldn't have gone down. But
you serve as an example, though, for sure.
I guess definitely. Like, it definitely changed my life. Like, I don't know where I would be now if that, like, hadn't been a thing. Which is crazy because, like, it's not like all my life I, like, wanted to be a poet. Like, it's just something I sort of just, like, fell into almost by, like, happenstance. And it's just, that's scary to me in of itself, just how crazy different your life can be after, like, one small, like, micron to the side decision that you make. Like, there's just no...
Would you say this is something you want to do with your life?
Creative writing, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely love doing it. But slam as an art form, lately. I haven't been competing as many slams as I did when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I guess the easier face answer is just like I've gotten bad at slams, or like I'm just not in the mood for it anymore. But like the deeper answer is really that I think like spoken word like slam competitions where you're all there and you're like you're getting graded by judging and you're working your way through the ranks up to championship. I think it works really well when you're in high school, when you're a teenager, and everything feels like it's supposed to be competitive, and you can feel like I'm the best at this in my school, or like my school won the award for best poetry team. And I guess I just I grew out of that thinking. Maybe I've been talking to a lot of my other like teaching artist friends, and they share this sentiment. It's just like, as they've grown older, the idea of slamming still is like less appealing to them, because they would rather just like write stuff that like that they want to, that feels naturally and feels true to them, than what a lot of slam is, which is like writing pieces that you know are going to score well with an audience. You know, you write pieces, it's like I have pieces that are like pieces. They're like heavily political. They're either about they're about sexism or racism or body image or homosexuality, and they're meant to push a button and make you think about something, because that's what scores the highest, is when you can do like really thinky types of performances. But then there's other stuff that I want to write that has less of a form to it.
Do you think that's why you've been publishing more on the page poetry?
Definitely. Like I've definitely been more into print stuff, shorter pieces that aren't like 3 pages long, that are like these epic monologues that I'm doing about one subject. I like stuff that can sort of stand on its own and you just have to read into it, or just sort of figure out what it's about. I've definitely written lots of stuff that I'm not even sure what it's about, but...
Well, now, what is your degree in? Or what degree are you working toward in college?
In college, I'm in the film studies department. Film studies with, I'm getting a certificate/minor in creative writing as this thing on the side.
I did the exact same thing.
Which is really cool, yeah. I mean,
I got the exact same degree.
That's great, man. We're having a great time. I mean, it's cool. I think I just chose film because I was like, well, I'm going to go to college. I'm interested in writing.
Well, you do love film. You love the art form of film.
Love,
you often frame our life experiences through a film lens.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably really unhealthy. I just see everything as this lens of, pop culture, what can I reference as what can I draw on to inform my own experiences. You see that now. I mean, just we're part of this large group of friends, and I'm so attached to this idea of we're all a part of a big friend group, and we're like a surrogate family, and every one of us brings something special to the table, and we all care about each other, and we're all involved in each other's lives in all these crisscrossing ways. I'm like, that's not actually how shit is. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We're all people, and sometimes we don't have time for each other, and we're not interested, and it's
but you like
that's
to
cool.
imagine
But I romanticize the idea of it. Of the
friend
idea
adventures.
The friend of, or the idea of a gang, or a crew. Yeah. As weird as that is, through the lens of sitcoms or ensemble comedies. I liked it. I liked the idea that in my social life I can belong to part of something larger than me. And it's so I come to the crew and I'm the funny guy, or I'm the guy who knows about pop culture. And
you are both of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I am. And I'm lots of other things at the same time that I guess I should try to be more often when I'm around my friends. That I'm not so much. But yeah, anyway, I definitely do that. I'm definitely all the time seeing myself from a camera lens that's capturing me. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I see scenes of my life.
So the ideal Nick Weaver, let's say Nick Weaver at age 30. Oh, God. Do you want him to be making films and publishing poetry? Is that the ideal future?
I mean, damn, yeah. If I was making films on a basis as my job and that'd be fantastic. I mean, I know the real answer to this question is where do you see yourself when you're 30? The legit answer is not working at all and having millions of dollars.
Sure.
But what I would absolutely love to be involved in any sort of element to production.
I mean, I know you made a student film recently. It was the first time you wrote,
Yeah.
directed, and edited your own student film. I was in the film.
You were in it, man.
And
it was great.
You showed it today, and you said you got a really positive response.
I did. It was one of those atmospheres. It was like, it was us and everyone else who was in the class sitting in front of a projector screen with our professor and just like screening our films one after another. And you could always tell like whose film it was even before like, you know, the title card came up in the credits. Just who in the classroom was like cringing while it was happening. Like it happened to me. Like I was watching the screen, I was like curling up, and we were like, I think my friend even asked, he was like, can I just like leave the room when mine is on? And I was like, yes, I would love to do that. I cannot watch anyone else watch my stuff. And we were all in there and we all thought our work was generally like shit. We all hated the film that we had turned in. But by the end of it, we were all like talking about each other's and seeing how other people were reacting to ours. And we all kind of came out of it with like, okay, maybe that wasn't so much shit as we so much thought. You know,
you're going to be your harshest critic for sure until you get
That's
definitely
true. And I think it's also true that nothing that we made, or like nothing that you can create in general, is like absolutely without anything worthwhile. Does that make sense? Like, we could watch all of our films, and even if you like despised it, you could be like, well, there was that one element in it. Like, I really liked the music, or I really liked that line, or the way this scene turned out. And, you know, this is our first student film, so obviously there's, like, way more of that than normal. But I guess the idea is, as you make films and grow up, you have less of that going on. You're, like, slowly you're just getting better at certain elements of the production.
I don't know. I've been writing for maybe
10
not.
Years I don't know. You're basically...
Every single thing I
degree.
write is the worst thing I've ever written until someone tells me it's good.
That's definitely true. I think if anyone... 99% of, like, all creators, like, hate the shit that they're putting out, like, a lot of the time. And if people tell you that they don't, they're probably, like, lying to themselves. Like, I'm just throwing that out there, like... I mean, I think it's possible to be satisfied with your art, but I don't think artists create art and then look at it and go like, oh, that's amazing. I'm so moved. This is fantastic. Like, I think you can look at art in your own art and be like, this is good. I am happy with this.
Right.
But you're still in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, but I could have done this better. Do you know what I mean?
I've often told people that I don't love to write. I love people to love what I write.
Yeah, that's the fucking truth. I love being loved, man, and I love my work as like a vehicle to me.
Yeah.
Having love, which is so weird and unhealthy. You know what I mean?
We all try to get love
recognize
in our own way.
I was like, I shouldn't be doing this for whatever small level of fame I think I'm getting out of it. I should be doing this because I love doing it and because I can't do anything else. Yeah. But there is still like a small part of me that like, anytime anyone comes up to me after a show and is like, hey, I really loved that piece that you did, that just, like, flares up and blooms, and it's just like, oh, you did? Like, that's, like, it's amazing to me. Like, I'm just like, you do? Because I hate myself. Like, that's crazy that you like my work. And it's like, I obviously don't, but there's that 12-year-old part of me, it's inside of me, that is still, like, amazed at all the praise that he's getting.
I think that
and
the goal
try to tone that down.
I think the goal of art probably is to get to a point where you're making art for art's sake. I'm not anywhere close to that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to reach that kind of, like, enlightenment point in my art where I can just do it for the sake of it. But right now I'm doing it because I want to make a career of it, and I want to do it forever. Yeah. And unfortunately, the way that you do it forever is that you got to become well-known first as a writer. And to become well-known, you have to play the artist game, which is shelling yourself out and your work like you're a business person, which I'm not a business person. But
we've got a few minutes left in the podcast, but I specifically want to hear a couple of your poems. So do you know some by heart? A couple that you could do, or do you want to pull your phone out? I can blow 30 seconds. So you can look it up on your phone.
Shit, I'll pull out something really
All right.
quick.
While Nick is looking at his phone, I'll let everybody know that if you like the podcast, if you'd like to help me out, go to my website, ericwrites.com. On the left side, there's going to be an Amazon banner. Click on the Amazon banner, go to Amazon and buy whatever you were going to buy. It's not going to cost you anything extra, but it will kick a few cents back to me, which I totally appreciate. While you're at Amazon, you might as well buy Katie Rain Hill's book, Rethinking Normal, And as soon as Nick has a book, I'll plug his too. He's working on it right now.
As sure as I get that book out there, man. It's coming out any
He
day
actually
now.
does have a book. It is as of yet unpublished, but it is in the works.
Thanks for that plug, man.
So you got one up? You ready?
Yeah, I'm totally ready.
All right.
Okay. This is called Queer as Folk. And then gay marriage was legal in Oklahoma, and it was renamed Oklahoma, and shit. Can I start over?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And then gay marriage was legal in Oklahoma, and it was renamed Oklahomo, and cowboys went broke back, and farm girl lay with farm girl, and all the cows turned gay too, so they weren't feeling left out, and their milk was sugary post-Fruity Pebbles breakfast flavored, and wheat fields bloomed with glitter, and oil drills yielded expensive and internationally prized body creams, and pride parades gypsy caravanned across the prairies, and pies were made with the finest organic apples found at that great farmer's market last Sunday, and sassy hairdressers used gels and scissors as weapons of rebellion, and McMansion homes were interior designed to the brink of death, and the American flag turned painted shades of vermilion, eggshell, and cerulean, and this condemned country shed its rubbery hate, and the world became faggy, and men in Africa were no longer afraid to love, and their bodies ran hot, and hands sheathed other hands in the streets, and the Nile flowed pink with froth, and straight nightclubs started to power blast songs by Erasure, and Donna Summers, and Freddie Mercury, and rich suburban housewives eloped with their Latina housekeepers, and their husbands got with the Brazilian pool boys, and wrestlers wore lipstick to accentuate their rock-hard glistening pecs, and fat plumbers covered their cracks with exquisite Balenciaga gowns, and soldiers deeply Frenched across battle lines, and dictators ended wars with tongues shoved down each other's throats, and we all tiptoed through the tulips, singing our gay little songs, and the earth felt awe with rainbow again, and we all skipped like fairies, dancing, prancing away from yesterday and into the great wide arms of the fabulous drag queen we call tomorrow, and not a single person would ever go back.
Nice.
Thank you.
Excellent work, Nick.
A little kind of impromptu
Beautiful.
reading there.
I want a second one. We've still got a couple minutes.
Okay.
Give me something else.
Yeah, I'll just do, I'll do the Brink, because
Do it.
I know that one.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and end when this is over, so again, everybody, thanks for listening. This was Nick Weaver.
Heyo. Okay. It's called The Brink. I wish I could dance. I wish I could be sexy. See, I wish I could gyrate my hips in time with the orchestral remix of a new generation. See, it is not that time yet, but this time, a moment when we exist on the brink, the border between the gloss and the glam of tomorrow, the edge of a field of beating hearts that pump blood in time with the words, "Big boy, you are beautiful." See, I wish the people I love loved me back. I wish obesity wasn't an epidemic I had to contribute a single digit to. I wish my hormones didn't need to be censored by the FCC. I've got these thick chemicals flowing like paint in my body. They cannot be pinched out like pus from a poor, oily skin in need of a tanning rack. I ask my connect the dots face, what kind of a canvas have I been given? Because it is simply not enough to be handed some clay and be told to carve away all the parts of it that aren't you, sculpt a Greek nude of the you want to be. All of me is me. My DNA is my dog tag. And I wish Playgirl had a spot on their alabaster walls for my magazine cover, and that milkshakes really would bring boys to my yard. You would not be lying when you expressed your love of big butts. Fat bottom girls would make the rockin' world go round, and Beyonce sang hymns about the single ladies who have been single for far too long. We don't live in that world, but I do think we're on the threshold, wound tight like piano wire. Our tolerance for society is soon to snap. The society that says use bulimia to purge yourself of self-doubt, the things penned about you in bathroom stalls are gospel, and the paper-thin dolls that propel themselves down luminescent runways are more powerful and fabulous than you could ever hope to be. No, maybe I'm sexier than I think. Maybe you're sexier than you know. Maybe we're all sexier than we want to believe. Maybe rollerblading down the hot city pavement with a mango smoothie in hand is sexier than any form of transportation that money could buy. Maybe singing TV theme songs in the classic rock section of Best Buy is sexier than tall, dark, and handsome. Maybe trying to make a grilled cheese sandwich by turning your toaster on its side is sexier than a sushi dinner. Maybe getting your hands dirty is sexier than a $4,000 suit. Maybe anything is sexier than photoshopped women, legs spread wide on on highway billboards. Maybe scars are sexy. Having flaws is sexy. Maybe meeting someone who agrees with you on an incredibly obscure pet issue is sexier than any porn. Maybe a body covered in tattoos is sexier than a body starved for art. Maybe a humble attitude is sexier than superior taste. And maybe respect is sexy. Maybe saying no is sexy. Maybe accepting the word no is sexy. And maybe what you already have is sexier than what you're told you're supposed to want. I think more people would be unafraid to call themselves beautiful and exquisite and lovely and sexy if we just stopped trying to straitjacket the word into a definition. So the next time you're crawling around on the dank cave floor of your mind studying tar drawings of the soul power you don't have, remember one day we will dance. We will stop being close-minded and closing ourselves off to love, and we'll see the stars behind our eyes and the thunder in our voices and rekindle the fire in our hearts. But the only way that will happen is if the people like us, the undesirables, the unwanted, the uglies, dance together. I wish it could happen now. I wish we didn't have to wait for a revolution while we crawl on this cusp. I wish we could dance together.